All right. Welcome to another episode of the Deconstruction talks that I've been having with Jacob. Um, it is the 7th of March, 2021. Today's topic of discussion is going to be shame, primarily, and then some stuff about yoga, spirituality, and we'll see where both those conversations go, I guess. Jacob, how are you doing today?
We're good. Yeah, it's nice, sunny, presumably cold. I haven't been outside my apartment in like 4 days, day in
Yeah,
Chicago. So I
I,
think it's
I
I think it's nice out.
I haven't left
You know.
the apartment either in a little while, and actually I'm drinking non poisonous materials today,
Hell yeah,
because I went pretty hard the last 2 nights, and yeah,
nice.
I'm feeling it. Um, so
I like at this point I don't even know what my tolerance would be. Like I haven't had a drink since I think it was the day after Christmas was the last drink I had. So I just like with the exception of like I'll drink like a bitters and soda and like I didn't I didn't realize it until I stopped drinking that bitters has
yeah,
alcohol in
it's
it.
a very
And it
slight
was like
amount.
no, it's like 45%.
Really? Oh,
Pretty sure, yeah. So like you could literally take a shot of bitters, it would just be
it would
really
be,
rough.
yeah, it would be
Yeah, but
nasty.
like
But
I'm thinking when cuz like the thing is like I'm not off the sauce for good. It's like I'm off this I bet someone I could go a whole year without a drink. So I'm thinking when I return to booze in it, then I want to do something nasty, like just you know, like take a shot of
I'll give you a
bitters.
suggestion. Have you ever had Chinese liquors?
I've had so my brother spent some time in Thailand and brought back something called boner whiskey, which is like
Oh, that's
yeah,
wonderful.
it's like yeah, it's like dried roots and herbs and shit, and you put like
Okay.
really high test stuff in it, and then it supposedly does nice things to your
Yeah.
PP. So,
And
but I don't know if
some
that's
kind of
similar to
stimulant.
Chinese liquors.
Um, yeah, I've never had any liquors from Thailand. But my least favorite thing to drink, I think ever, is called Baiju. That's
Okay.
Baijou, I think.
Hmm.
Um, really rough stuff.
Hell yeah.
I was in the Marine Corps for a long time, so obviously I'm well versed in drinking and all that. And this stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
immediately made me like, sick because it was just so harsh and
That
like
rocks.
you can look up videos because the way I had found out about Baiju is we were doing like a gift exchange at one of the places I was working at, and there was a Chinese man that worked there in my department, and I was like,
Mhm.
I've always been interested in trying other forms of liquor. Like, would you
Yeah.
be able to get me like give me whatever you would drink in China? And so,
Hmm.
I gave him like a nice bottle of scotch, and he gave me Baiju, which I found out is like $10 and shit. So I was like,
Hell yeah.
fuck.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it was some of the roughest stuff I think I've ever touched, and like even now, I keep the bottle that I got,
Hmm.
and it's got like just like the tiny little bit in the bottom, and I'll just have people like when they ask about it, I'll just have them like uncork it and take a whiff, and they're like, oh.
Yeah. Pretty rough.
Um, but
That
yeah,
rocks.
so try that when you come back to the world of drinking, and maybe you'll just be turned
Yeah.
off to it for good. Um, so yeah. Anyways, shame.
Shame.
Which I have quite a
I
bit of
think,
because I drink, I guess.
yeah. I mean, that is like one of the nice things about not drinking anymore is like I don't wake up on a morning and just be like, oh fuck, like
Did I
did I
tell my best
yeah,
friend to go fuck himself? And
yeah, right, did I like confess unrequited love for someone?
yeah,
Like what
it's
did I
always something you
what
may regret
what
doing.
did I post on my socials? Like, but yeah, no, I think
I wake up to memes that are like ready to fire on my Instagram sometimes.
hell yeah, that's dope. Um, but shame, yeah, I feel like we kind of have, well, we've talked about it on the gram, just like in the DMs, but like
Yeah,
it seems like most of the conversation has been, well, I think a lot of what you and I wind up talking about is just kind of like zeitgeisty stuff of like, and I think this to me is like the tie in between shame and the like yoga orientalism woo woo stuff is it's all about self actualization. It's all about self expression. It's all about a lot of the, well, so the through line being there's, on the one hand, there's the mitigation of shame. No one wants to feel that they should ever have to answer for or explain a decision. It's like, just this kind of like, it's like, frankly, like it's a hyper Western enlightenment individual, like really like gross individualist, like, like I don't have to explain myself. And it's like, yeah, but like if you're living in public and you're doing shit, then you don't have to explain yourself, but you can't also have it such that like people aren't gonna look at you sideways or be like, what the fuck? Like, and the kind of like Orientalist New Age stuff also it assumes that one, the East has something to teach the West that is not organic in Western thought, which is odd because if you look at something like Gnostic Christianity or like sort of like fringe Christian sects that were sort like still sort of around and vibrant in the nation Christian faith before, a series of ecumenical councils kind of, created dogma and
hmm
you know, um, pronounced people as heretics or apostates or whatever. There's plenty of like that kind of woo woo there as well. Like, and like that's the thing. Like, on a certain level, I feel like bad dismissing it all as woo woo, but also like it's fucking woo. Like it,
No, that that's
and
not like in the pursuit of I guess like being against the formation of like um fundamental Christianity or whatever. Let's not like jump into woo woo instead as a way to like
right,
negate that or
yeah.
replace it or anything. It's
Um, but
and let's also
yeah.
not,
So it's
I think another thing is like let's not become new atheists where we which I
right,
was for a little while where like
yeah,
everything is explained by science. So
yeah. Uh, Yeah, I that kind of shit is I'm much more sympathetic to religious people, frankly, than I am to new
oh for sure,
atheists
yeah,
and
yeah.
like
I
hard
agree.
rationalists, like because they're just religious people aren't insufferable in the way that those people are. Like, because I don't know, I would rather listen to some fucking some idiot from the peanut gallery talk about how like he said a prayer and God cures little girl of whatever the fuck than some idiot who's like, well, actually, it's the chromosomes and it's the religion is just a vestigial trait of when we were hunters and gatherers. It's like, dude, you're a biologist. Like, shut the fuck up. But
Yeah.
well, actually, like, kind of a weird fun fact. I think isn't Sam Harris, wasn't he like an acid head and like did a bunch of Eastern shit
Yeah. Yeah.
and now like it's
Ironically
like, but
enough.
like that says something though. That to me is like that's how hollow um the Western use of like Eastern practices is, and not like I'm not at all like coming out in some sort of like this is just cultural appropriation thing.
No,
Like
of course
that's
not.
I don't really give a shit about that. Like that to me is not the interesting point. The interesting point is that of that in itself is baked in. Like of course it is. But it's like what is useful about this, or why is this attractive to people? You know, why is this attractive to preppies, to techies, to anyone? I mean, like the fact that something um, like Lululemon, like which ostensibly is just like athleisure, but is like I guess overlappy with yoga. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I mean,
let's just
if you make that many yoga pants, it's gonna have some overlap, I guess.
right, yeah, and it's just like that is a multi-million-dollar business. Like it's cashing in on something like as a cultural phenomenon. You know, it's reached a critical mass where like people are doing businesses like that, or like
Mhm.
mindfulness apps, meditation apps,
That shit's funny to me.
studio. And it's like, yeah, man, it's like I just like I also like
Mhm.
sometimes I'll see people share like inspirational quotes that are like part of it is like they're just so anodyne and like non-denominational that I'm like, I don't know what what does this mean? You know, and it's like put out, manifest whatever you want this month, and it's like, and it will come to you. And it's like, who needs to be told this? Like that's my question. Who is this for? Like,
Well,
if
as you
you,
know, as somebody who's read philosophy, you know, we are all innately without desire unless we manifest it, right?
I guess, yeah, man. I mean,
We
like,
have no desires that are guiding our paths, and yeah, I mean the manifestation thing is always funny to me because it's like we still live in a society, you know.
we live in a society,
We live
man.
in this
But
society, not to sound like the Joker, but you know, it's like you can't just manifest them. Like, what can you honestly manifest that isn't already something that's like within your reach,
I'm
like
usually
naturally?
manifesting other people shutting the fuck up, you know? Like that's my usual like I'm usually just like, man, can we not hear about this?
Just for a
And it
little bit,
you
just
like
for a little bit.
yeah, but like the inciting incident for the my like opposition to like white PMC yoga
Oh
practitioners
my god, yeah.
mostly stems from I had there was a person I knew, and this person made the point that they had seen a yoga studio that, mind you, this person is white,
Of course,
saying
yeah.
this. This person said um they had seen a yoga studio that had a Buddha statue in it, and they were like, they said, I don't like that because like yoga isn't Buddhist. Just like, yeah, but you're not you're not like whatever, you know, you're not any remotely Indian, Hindu, like whatever like what? All of this stuff is so deracinated and disconnected from its origin. It's impossible. It's impossible. Well, I don't know. I was going to say it's impossible to responsibly do any of this, which is like that's a hard position. I don't really believe that, but I am like pretty amenable to saying like it is impossible, but that shouldn't stop you from doing it. Because I think a lot of people, like the woke blue check type crowd, would say it's impossible to do this responsibly. You shouldn't try.
Yeah, right.
But
Like
then
as
they're
if
doing that.
everything, you know, and that kind of
Yeah.
ties back into shame, where it's like, oh, you're not allowed to be, you know, X color and say X thing, or and we're gonna shame you if you do that. And obviously there's some rules where that kind of works, but then you know it's like there exists cultural exchange, right? And so
Yeah.
um you know a lot of you know Native American tribes would take in people who were coming over as colonizers, and you know these people became true vetted members of the tribe. And
Hmm.
you know today you would have blue check liberals saying, please, you can't be part of the tribe unless I see your blood quantum, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
the sort of like science reductivism of it is it's always interesting to me when people invoke science, because like my general inclination is to be like I'm anti-science, like I like that shit mostly creeps me out when people want to invoke science for making political points, because
no, I
it's
think
just like,
that's actually, I think I may have had this conversation with you. But I know I've had it with a couple of other people, like and not to disapprove of this kind of approach necessarily, but I'm seeing a lot of people getting like wrapped up in debates that like become circular and go nowhere on like the science of whether or not transgenderism is valid or good or like acceptable in society.
oh
It's like,
yeah, we were talking about
yeah,
this,
we
yeah,
I think we did
apropos
talk about that.
sports.
Yeah, and it's all well and good, I guess, to be making those kind of arguments, but I think it's much more, like, I don't know. I don't feel like getting wrapped up in like, and this is kind of based off a meme that I made a couple of days ago, but like essentially what it comes down to is you're like bringing out the calipers and like measuring somebody's biceps to make
Yeah,
sure that, like, oh well, it,
it's
it turns out that,
phrenology.
yeah, it turns out that the average trans woman has biceps that are 0.1% bigger than the
Yeah,
the regular female population, and it's like it's such a useless discussion, and you know
but my
it's
thing, like, one, because I don't give a shit about sports, but also like
same, yeah.
were I to be into sports, I would want to see the best possible outcome, like in terms of, which by which I mean I want to be as entertained as I possibly could be, which means I want people to be juicing as much as
Yeah, no, like
humanly
I've
possible.
never
I want
understood,
I
like,
want
yeah,
that. I want like, it's, which is also like kind of ludicrous too, that
bring
like
out some fucking
the
gorillas and make them
the
slug each other to death,
yeah, the
like.
moral panic of like trans athletes. It's like, yeah, but all of these guys fucking juice. Like, who
Oh
cares?
no,
It's a complete fucking fabrication. And
yeah,
like,
the lines of where, like, oh, you're allowed to do this but you're not allowed to do that with your body in order to like achieve certain performance, like, oh,
yeah,
you can, strap on like an oxygen depletion mask and
right.
ride a bike on an incline for 5 miles, but you're not allowed to like put a little bit of juice in you to give you better muscles.
Yeah, or like do the blood transfusions or whatever,
Yeah,
like with,
which is fucking creepy. Let's be
dude,
honest.
honestly, if someone is willing to do that to their body, and this is like kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's an irresponsible thing to, maybe, to say,
Definitely,
but like,
yeah.
well, like, so there's a certain argument that says like the fact that there are like gay or trans people in Alabama is all the proof you need that it's not a choice, like, if someone's
Sure,
gonna
yeah.
like, if someone's in a shitty fucking place, like where there are fundies, just out the yin yang, then like, and they're willing to like live as themselves, like it's kind of the same thing with like, what, I don't, yeah, this is the irresponsible part where it's like, if fucking Barry Bonds or whoever, or Lance Armstrong is willing to like pump themselves full of human growth hormone, then like, God bless Mazel, like, because they're doing it for us,
Yeah.
like, I don't,
That's a
that's like not exactly a through line, but it's kind of a
it's
through
like
line.
that's
I
like
don't
a
know.
good like Christian crossover meme, like he did it for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Put
exactly.
Lance
Yeah,
Armstrong up on the cross. He did it for you.
Lance did nothing wrong, man.
I agree. I mean,
And the, yeah,
except for leaving his wife, I think was kind of shitty because she
oh,
like stuck with him through cancer, and then he's like, get out
later.
of my life. I'm with Cheryl Crow
Yeah,
now." That was kind of fucked
hell
up.
yeah. Dudes rock. I don't know. I mean, that is pretty bad.
Yeah,
All
but
right. So what are we, yeah, this is taking a turn. We're off in
yeah.
left field, but I'm
So
fine like with
shame.
meandering.
This
Uh
kind of actually fits in some ways, and I'm gonna try to do my best to finesse this in a way that doesn't seem like I'm just like pulling shit out of my
yeah.
ass. But what we've talked about is in general, just the idea of being ashamed of who you are, being having to live certain ways. And one of the things that you brought up was trans people living in heavily fundamentalist sort of regions, and being able to live as themselves. And so the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about in shame in the Bible is you'd be surprised how little the Bible says to be ashamed.
Hmm.
um, what the Bible actually says most of the time is that you should be unashamed, but that the only way to achieve that shameless existence is by by Christ in the New Testament, and by faith in God in the Old Testament, and
Hmm.
by the sacrificial acts that you would have to go through in the Old Testament, and then the sacrifice of your personal identity in the New Testament. Um, so when uh when we see the Bible talking about shame, it's not telling you to be ashamed. It's telling you to basically obliterate the self and
Yeah.
become part of the body of Christ, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Which I'm
it is
like,
a removal of the self. And so
yeah.
in church circles, when you see somebody who's being shamed, it's because they haven't
Hmm.
fully given themselves over to Christ. They still have
Right. Sure.
that sense of self that they're clinging to, that maybe leaves them outside of the normal
Yeah.
expectation of the churchgoer. You were starting to say something. Go ahead.
Like, I'm a fan of that personally. Like, that's kind of what I was. We were the other day when we were talking about like French racism and republicanism, in French Muslims. Like the French, like basically, like it's like you're French, you're Republican, that's it before all else, which is like dumb. It's
Yeah.
dumb. It's
Right.
problematic. Because it's just Western chauvinism under the guise of like liberal politics. But um, yeah, no, like a negative theology of the self, or a whittling away of the self, meaning like you're arriving at the self by saying I am not this, I am not that, in the same way that negative theology of the divine is just simply saying, well, you can't really assign a predicate to God, so therefore, like, grammatically you have to, if you're making a claim, it has to be couched in a negative form, or negation. And I think that's how people should approach the self. I think shaming people, I think, like, thinking about a bunch of people in a fucking church, doing whatever they're doing, like what is like a shaming ritual that that would happen in a church if someone has not sufficiently submitted to Christ.
Um, yeah, that's not it's not something you necessarily see a lot of, I think.
Hmm.
Um, I would say one kind of shaming ritual that I saw on a regular basis would be like a call to prayer sort of thing. So one that I would say is pretty prominent, and it's maybe not as obvious as people would think, but like a call to prayer. And then there's always the if you're struggling in your walk with God, please come forward and we'll lay hands on you. And so it's basically
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
having to
assume there
admit to
was.
the you're having to admit to the congregation that you have some iniquity, and you need to have it prayed out of you. And of course, there's that ritual, but then always afterwards there's somebody who's going to come up to you and be like, hey, I saw you went up today, and I just want you to know that if you're ever struggling and you need to talk to somebody, I'm here for you. um
Hmm.
and as much as the Christian faith says not to gossip, that's naturally just going to happen because humans
Oh
are
yeah,
humans. And so,
yeah.
the
Mean
gossip
church
always goes,
ladies.
yeah, mean church ladies, exactly, who, are like, so and so went up today, and I just have to say, I thought I saw them, doing something bad the other day, and I didn't want to say anything about it, but at least they're recognizing that
Yeah,
they're falling from their walk with God or whatever.
yeah. Well, and that's part of the thing about, like, I guess, like, maybe I should, like, hedge my sort of, like, uh, cavalier, like, shame is a good thing. You should feel
No, no,
ashamed.
no,
Like,
no.
I don't think,
I don't
like,
think you believe all shame is good.
it's not like don't like, I'm not saying go fucking bully people, like, because that's what this shit is. It's just bullying. Like,
Yeah,
you know, saying that shame is good doesn't mean like, because like shame is, I guess the way I feel is that like the way shame operates is like, it's fine for there to be, but by it's fine, I mean like there are these in group out groups that are, about saying, you know, well, this is biblical. Shibboleths, like that's a biblical story, but that's an aside. But it's like, okay, so they don't do it this way, or they say XYZ, they do XYZ. We don't do that. Shame the people who do that. And I mean the wokes do this, the rights, the religious right, they do this.
well, there is some usefulness in shame. You know,
Yeah, but
the
also those people, like, individually, they don't want to have, it's, I need to externalize and project and bludgeon with this shame so that I don't have to face myself. If I can either fix or demonize other people, then I never have to reflect on myself and think, okay, what should I
for
fix
sure.
in myself?
Yeah.
What should I, slough off from myself that's unhealthy or unproductive? Um,
Well, I
and
think that's kind of
yeah,
the point that you were making when you were talking about how sometimes the obliteration of self is good in some respects
it is good. Yeah,
because you're and that's going back to like the Sam Harris acid head stuff. One of the things that people regularly do acid for or experience through and kind of seek it out, I guess, is that ego death that you get when you're
right.
on a hallucinogen,
Yeah.
which I've experienced many times. Always a good time.
Yeah.
But and I've seen some stuff, that like people posting stuff like you didn't have a bad trip, you just like realized yourself and didn't want to confront yourself, sort of stuff. And it's like, I don't really know about all that, but but
Yeah.
yeah, there's certain like obliterative acts of the self that are kind of good to like and when we talk about shame being healthy in some things, it's like there are behaviors and things that are bad, and you should feel
Yeah.
ashamed for them when you do them. No, feeling like you were born a woman inside of a man's body isn't something you should be ashamed of. Sort of,
Right.
but like wanting to eat other people is something you should be ashamed of. I think in some
See, I
regards.
would fight you on that one. I'm not,
I don't know, man. I'm not an Arnie Hammer
I'm
stan.
I'm agnostic when it comes to, morally agnostic when it comes to, or I guess
If they're
agnostic
already
vis-a-vis
dead,
the morality.
if they're already
Yeah.
dead, sure, but
Or
if they're,
consenting. Some
I don't
people
know,
want to be
man.
ate. Do they have
War is
psychological
cringe.
problems? Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I
like,
think being the devourer in that circumstance is kind of
yeah,
a bad thing.
yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, like, I would say, like, usually when I experience it, it is like, it's for me, it's in terms of like consumption or waste. It's like when I just like think about for me, like it's pretty closely associated with something like takeout, where I'm just like, I could have just fucking cooked and it would have taken
Yeah.
5 minutes, but I didn't. Or just like,
There's something about
it's
that
anything
that
it's
grease when it hits your
convenience.
stomach, that when all that fast food grease hits your stomach and you like start to feel a little bit like tummy bad, and then that tummy badness turns into like, man, I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to find God because this Five Guys is doing something
I have
sinister right
sinned,
now.
and I am
Yeah.
unclean. Um
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I don't really experience it, uh, or at least, yeah, I don't know. It's like, but to me, it like is it's involved in like having a conscience as well.
Oh,
Frankly,
absolutely. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because it's like if you're ashamed of something, then you're right or wrong, real or perceived, you're recognizing a disjunct between, you know, like the external world and your internal, like internal experience and processing of it. I mean, the work is to not just say, oh, well, I don't want to experience shame. It's to figure out, like, is this telling me something helpful or productive? Or is this just like kind of, something that was drilled into me, by having a bunch of losers lay their hands on me in church when I was 13 years old? It's like,
Yeah. Um.
but yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's one of the weird kind of disconnects, I think, between like what the Bible says about shame and how the church actually operates in shame. Because the Bible is telling you over and over again, don't be ashamed, as long as you're one of Christ's followers and stuff like that. But
right.
well, what this leads to is you get weird psychopaths who don't feel any shame for anything they do because
Yeah,
they did it in the name of God.
right.
And that's where not having shame is very very harmful, I think.
Yeah.
um
Well, that, and then the shame only comes after the fact when, after they've diddled the aides and the interns and they're standing there with their wife at the podium. Like, here, I'm just imagining like a, you know, Elliot Spitzer type thing or a Ted Haggard type thing where you're like out there, getting your dick wet, and then you have to, and then the shame is after, and you're like, I'm just so ashamed.
yeah.
Just like, no, you're not. Like, you feel
Right.
fine. Like, you're probably gonna go get your dick sucked again after this. Like, it's fine. Like, you don't feel bad. You feel bad you got caught. The mask slipped for a half a second, and afterwards you're gonna go right back to doing what you did.
Of course. Yeah. Well, and the way that they can always hand wave it is through Christ, we're washed clean. So and
Right.
as long
Yeah.
as you can, in the Catholic Church, as long as you confess your sins, sort of thing, or whatever.
Yeah.
As long as you
Yeah.
go through that process, then you can keep living without shame.
Right. Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, I guess, is like, so it sounds to me, at least in fundamentalists Protestant practice, the sort of confession thing is congregational, whereas, obviously for Catholics it's a private, like, whole, like, it's like the privacy is sacrosanct
Of
itself,
course. Right.
like, you're
Yeah.
in the confessional with the priest, and that's kind of it. Which is still like pretty harrowing, because you're
Yeah. I've always
telling
actually
someone.
been more intimidated by that process than I
Yeah.
think the regular one. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like when it's this weird paradox I discovered when I was in the military, where you're like uncomfortable with yourself, it's better to have like 30 people in the showers than just
Hmm.
you and another guy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It becomes
Yeah.
weird and intimate in that sense.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, that makes sense.
Don't shower with your priest. 'Cause,
Yeah, that's probably not
that's
great.
that's the takeaway
Yeah.
from from that.
Yeah.
Um, well, I know we kind of had a third topic, and I don't know if you wanted to discuss that right now or
Nah, it seems
no.
like kind of inorganic.
Yeah, I think so too.
We can save it.
Conversation went a different direction than I thought it was going to go in some ways. Um,
Yeah.
did you have anything more you wanted to expand on with the Eastern religion sort of stuff, or
I mean, I think I don't know, it's like the old classic for me is, how transgressive or radical can a thing be if people are making money off it?
Oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
so like, the what's interesting too is just like the um I'm like as a function of just like experiences I've had, I'm always interested in religion and food. Cause so I don't know if I've told you this or not, but so I used to work with this was between undergrad and graduate school. I worked with several people who were evangelicals, and they were all diet whack jobs. Like they were, one of them was keto. One of them, I think now is like a vegan, and the other one was just like the kind of person who like judges other people for what they eat.
Mm.
Um, and like literally all three of these individuals were evangelical, fundamentalist evangelicals. Like one of them literally was going to Liberty University online, which is about the saddest fucking educational experience you could ever have. Um,
Absolutely.
but it was bound up with them in this sense of like, well, at least for the one, it was this, like, it wasn't like my body is my temple or my body is a vessel for God. It was the same kind of moral standpoint that allows the church ladies to judge whoever comes forward.
Oh, of course.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be church ladies, it's dudes too. But like, it's the same position that allows those people to judge others who do come forward and say like, oh yeah, I'm struggling with drinking or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And they say like, well, I eat this diet, and like I have all the facts. Like it's this constant inoculation against like the fact that you could be doing something wrong, and it's like
Yeah, I was gonna
my
say
general
there's a battalion take on this, which is that when somebody sacrifices something, i.e., they sacrifice a part of their diet,
Mhm.
they've made themselves sacred through that way, and because they've made themselves sacred, they can now appear
Yeah,
above you and look down on you, sort of thing.
yeah, which is just like, what, like
Exactly.
my
Yeah.
my it's like, I mean, if you really want to like get, well, no, I was gonna like veer off into like philosophy talk, and I just like, I'm so far out of that world at this point where I don't even think I could string together a sentence involving anyone where it'd be like, yeah, well, Deleuze would say or Freud would say, and I was like I could do it, but it would just be like not pretty. But yeah, I mean, but also like the flip side, so you have these idiot evangelicals who I know, who I don't know that they're representative of any sort of broader thing in evangelical circles, but then the flip side with the like orientalist woo woo is, the whole foods, vegan, soy, uh meat substitute things, which is like, honestly, like, the jury is out on all these meat substitutes. Like those things are not good for you. Like, and it's not like, and I'm not saying that from a place of like the soy is making the frogs gay type thing. It's like th- they have to be engineered,
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah.
Um,
As
but
much as
it's
we
this,
want to deny our nature, sometimes I think we evolved to eat meat, and we can't escape that anytime soon. I don't think.
yeah.
Um, my take
I
on
mean,
it.
if Elon and Bill Gates had their rathers, then we'd all be eating like bug smoothies or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, for sure.
Like, isn't that the thing? Like, aren't
I
the
think that'd be
Richie
more of
Rich
like
like?
I think that'd be more of like a Bloomberg thing because he was like obsessed with like what poor people were able to eat or not eat when he
Oh, of
was in
course,
charge in New York.
yeah. That's my reaction whenever people complain about like supposed welfare queens buying like fast food or expensive food. I'm just like, good for them, dude. Like, why the fuck shouldn't
Yeah,
they?
treat
Like,
yourself. It's just
Just don't
like,
even treat yourself. It's just like
no,
it
I
should
know.
taste good.
Yeah,
You know,
it
like
tastes good, and everybody should have access to food. It's
yeah,
you shouldn't you shouldn't feel morally superior to somebody because you worked super hard to get what you like naturally deserve.
yeah. It is always a question of what I feel I deserve. Entitlement.
Hmm.
I mean,
For sure.
yeah, but like entitlement and shame are like kind of a couple
Oh yeah, yeah.
in that sense. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think we could probably cut things off here. Um, One of our upcoming subjects is going to be on sexism in the Bible. I've got a friend of mine who we'll be talking to. Obviously, to I mean, you go by non-binary pronouns. I'm
Mhm.
clearly a dude. Um, you know, I don't think it's our place to necessarily discuss every aspect of sexism when there's a very strong element of sexism against women in the Bible.
Mhm.
So we'll get a little bit of a woman's perspective on this. I do have female friends. Some people will be surprised to know. Um,
Ladies.
ladies. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And our kind of schedule is to record one of these every other week. So hopefully we
Yeah.
can kind of stick to that. I screwed up the schedule last time we were supposed to record on me. Anyways, thank you for listening, Jacob. Thank you for your time today. Um,
Yep.
and see you guys next time. Hi, Michael Deebs here, with no gun pointed at my head. Please know that all content created for the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is and always will be freely available. However, if you would like to support this creation of content, we here at Camp Benzo would appreciate it, as the production itself is not free of cost. Anything donated will go to covering the various subscription fees maintained for content production or improving and expanding the content produced. If you are able to, please head on over to patreon.com/benzorehabdungeon. We also have shirts for sale on Teespring, all priced as low as we can get them without turning much or any profit. They are mostly so that you can show your loved ones that a necessary intervention may be on the horizon. Links to the merchandise storefront and our various social media profiles can be found on our link tree, which is the word linktr.ee/benzo rehab dungeon. As always, we love you. Please take your medicine.